Today I'm going to be painting some Joan of Arc. I'm going to be painting some Apocalypse. So we've got here Judgment, which I'm going to be painting. We've also got a load of these, I suppose, Spirit Knights. And I've already started, but been painting some of the Siege. Now, I thought I was all right because it was nice and stable, but as you can see, we've got the same problem that I think the vast majority of people from 1.5 have got, which is the slightly bent towers. Now, it's not much of a problem. I'm just going to change my light in a minute. It's not a huge problem. It's just a little bit annoying, but effectively, when you get it all set up, I've set up the castle a few times, you don't really notice the difference. So I'm going to be carrying on painting these. He's not completely done yet, nearly done. Be pleased with the results. I've got one of the towers as well. Just trying to get some kind of like wear on it as well as what we've got here. So I'm going to be going through painting some more of those as well. I also got plenty of towers to paint. And that's basically what I'm going to be painting today. If you want to comment on the live stream, then please do. I'll be watching it as well. So just bringing it up now, hopefully, as we go into the painting. So yeah, please do chuck down any comments if you are watching about Joan of Arc or anything like that, while I check out the chat as well. Brilliant. Okay, I've got the chat out. So actually, I think I'm going to start, rather than starting with that, I'm actually going to start with the... What's going on here? Sorry. Excuse me. Towers flying everywhere. Right, okay. So I'm going to start with the towers. So to kind of get this effect from the tower, I'm going to be making a kind of... Now you can't... I might give it a go with Nuln Oil. Nuln Oil might be just a bit too dark to give exactly what I want. So I think I'm going to go with something other than Nuln Oil. I'm going to just create a kind of a black wash, effectively, which is thinner than the Nuln Oil, which is what I did before. Although it's easier just to use Nuln Oil. Let's give Nuln Oil a try and see if it works. So from Citadel Shade, so I know it's not Citadel Contrast paint, but I'm going to use straight in with the Nuln Oil. A nice big brush for this to cover a decent amount of area. And I've primed this with just a grey primer, okay? So think of it as just a grey primer. And I'm just going to try and get this into the nuts and crannies of the miniature. I'm going to go down to the brickwork at the bottom here, so I've got something to hold on to. I'm just using the brush to get into those nicks and crannies. Don't want too much pooling, it'll be a bit too dark, I think. But yeah, this will be a lot easier than trying to do my own thing. You know, my own wash, as it were. But certainly you can use any black acrylic, cheap black acrylic, just mix it with water and make your own wash if you're covering up any huge amounts of area. But we're not talking about huge amounts of area here, so I don't mind using the Nuln Oil on this. Now, it's the miniatures for Joan of Arc, so getting all of the expansions just reminded me how good these small-scale miniatures are for this game. Absolutely beautiful. And really is going to make the game pop. I love the scenario book that comes with it. Plenty of scenarios to look at and to play. I think, how much did I count? 50 something scenarios. So absolutely loads to play. A couple of solo ones, which will be cool to give a go. Obviously on the channel I did the release one on Facebook with the devil, which was good. I enjoyed that. And you might have seen my Citadel Contrast. So I'll be sure to be putting some videos of Super Fancy Brawl Round 2 miniatures as well as I go through. I also want to put some painting videos, maybe live streams, whatever it might be, based on Elder Scrolls Call to Arms, which is another game that I've really enjoyed as I've gone through. Now, I realise this is probably not the most thrilling of paint jobs, but I'll just do one tower, and then we'll move on to the miniatures themselves as we go through this. So we're pretty much finished with this. So, you know, it doesn't take too long. Don't worry about slight inconsistencies that will add to the quality, and then we'll just go around the top here as well. Again, not being too perfect about it. I mean, stonework and walls wouldn't be perfect anyway. And we're getting the wash effect, which just gives a really nice look just on its own, to be honest, to any miniature. Again, I've got a cheap grey primer, not using Citadel or anything like that. I think it's one that's meant to go over rust, like a car paint primer or something like that. Just because there was a lot of things to prime, and that would have taken a very long time if all I had was it would cost a lot of money, sorry, if I was using Citadel. Okay, so we will leave that there to dry. Right, okay. So that's the boring bit done. So we're going to go with Judgment first. So a lot of whites on this one. So we're going to get one of our favourite Citadel Contrast paints, Apothecary White, to paint onto this one. So we've got the whites of the robe, we've got the white of the horse, which should come through as well as we go through. Now I'm using the art, by the way, from the compendium. So we've got the art here that I'm working off. Okay, so it's always useful to have some reference material when you're painting. And we're obviously going to go down to a suitable brush now. So I'm going to go down to my usual Series 7 size 1 brush, which is still the same one. I'm going to start with the clothing first. So we've got the clothing in between here. Again, at this point, it doesn't matter if you go over other bits, because the red's going to go over that as always anyway, and it won't really affect it too much. So just going over that part, white parts, then he's got the red sash going over him. So carry on over here. And painting the Super Fancy Brawl again was so good. They're such great miniatures, and now I'm really enjoying the Joan of Arc as well. So as well as lots of others, got a bit of Lord of Rings on the go. Games Workshop's Lord of Rings. I've got, as I mentioned, Elder Scrolls Call to Arms on the go. I was just about finishing the Blood Rage before all this stuff came in, which is cool. So yeah, plenty of things to paint still. Black Rose Wars, I tried to paint up some of the chests, and I got the same issue. I washed them. I primed them exactly the same as the other miniatures at the same time, and I got the same problem again, that the paint just did not stick to those miniatures. Really, really frustrating. To be honest, I can't be bothered to paint any more Black Rose Wars because of it, which is a real shame, because they're lovely miniatures. And that does worry me for Nova Aetus Renaissance, which is Ludus Magnus games as well. And if we get the same problem with those, I will be very disappointed, I think. Okay, what about that flowing? I think that's red. Yeah, we'll get all that all red. Okay, horse. Let's do the same for the horse. I'm actually going to just... now, you could just use a bigger brush and just cover this miniature. Because if you do the browns, it doesn't matter. It's still going to just add to the contrast of the paint job anyway. But for argument's sake, I'm just going to keep the same brush for ease. So it'd be interesting to know if there's anyone on the chat who's been painting, what you've been painting. Are you using contrast paints? Are you painting Super Fancy Brawl, Mythic, any Mythic games, Joan of Arc? How are you doing with that? I don't know if you had a chance to see my painting showcase of 1.0, the content I have for 1.0. And now I've got a lot more to paint to kind of get up to speed. But I'm going to take my time. I'm not going to rush too much or anything like that to get all of that done. We'll just take it by miniature by miniature. I will think about getting some of the troops done. I've got the, as I mentioned, I've got the Spirit Knights at the moment, which are really, really nice. The miniatures in this game, I honestly forgot how good they really were. So I'm really looking forward to just making my way through lots of different miniatures, buildings, and I think I've got another 20 trees as well, which is insane. But yeah, plenty to paint. I don't think I'm going to bother with the trees this time. I haven't worked up to painting yet, but getting there. Any tips for starting out? Yeah, I would start with some characters. Start with some ones that you like the look of. So I mean like either the mounted characters or the monsters or something like that. And then what I would suggest, how I got through all of that content for Joan of Arc, is I kind of mixed up doing units with characters and monsters. So I didn't do all the monsters first and then all the units, because that could get very dull very quick, because you have to batch paint the units ideally to get through them. So I just mixed it up. So I did a round of painting like something like 20 unit miniatures, and then did a few monsters and a few characters, and then it keeps it interesting. It allows you to keep going. But 100%, if you're not using Citadel Contrast paints, or I guess the Army Painter Instants, are they called? I think they seem to be oh my lord. Oh, and this is live, so this will happen to people, especially when you use these pots. So we got a spillage. So we're going to live stream this. Use a paintbrush to pick up as much of the paint as you can. So I'm going to use my big fat brush again. I'm going to start picking this up. Now this might be a bit dull to watch as we... but effectively, you soak up... Do not want to waste this contrast paint. It cost a... Don't worry, Mark, it's fine. You'll see how quick this soaks it up, and grab it back up. Don't waste that paint. You talk about like £4.50, £5 for a bottle of paint. It'll be absolutely fine, honestly. I've done this quite a number of times, as I'm sure all painters have. We all get through stages where we spill our paint pots and just try and grab back. Now, going back to, I might as well discuss what I was talking about. So yeah, splitting up units. Now that happens with all games. Any games I do, like Blood Rage, and well, I'm hoping to get the Marvel Zombie side, Marvel Zombies, or whatever it's called. Now that will have lots of kind of like grunts, I guess you can call them, miniatures, as well as lots of characters. And to make sure that you're painting everything, because the temptation is to paint all the unique characters, obviously, the monsters or whatever it might be. And then if you leave all of the units to the end and the kind of the multiple miniatures with the same poses, it can get really quite boring. And then painting turns from a really fun hobby to a bit of a job almost. And it can get a bit boring, and you can get fatigue, and then it might actually stop you from painting it at all. You might lose the kind of passion for it completely. Now it does depend on what you're trying to paint. Mark, if you're still there, what are you talking about? Joan of Arc? And also try not to start with the biggest miniature. So if it's Joan of Arc and you got the dragon, I wouldn't start with the dragon. Start with some smaller miniatures first to get into the swing of it, and then crack onto the dragon. The dragon is so much fun to paint, and it's such a beautiful model. I really enjoyed it. Oh, Journey's Middle Earth. So I believe that's similar. So it'll have the characters, and then it'll have lots of orcs. That'll have very, very similar poses or identical molds. So again, what I recommend is paint up the characters that you're playing, that you tend to play the most, 100%. And then after you've done that, then move on to some orcs. And number one, the first reason for that is for the fatigue, the painting fatigue. But the second reason is so that you're painting the miniatures that you're basically playing with. Because the reason why we most of us paint the miniatures for board games is not to send them in to win competitions or anything. It's so to enhance the immersion of the board game. So to kind of just paint the ones that you play. So Solomon Kane, for example, I painted in the order that I played it. So if I painted the miniatures that I was going to be using to play, and then moved on from there. Okay, we saved the vast majority of that paint. So there we go. There's a little bit of a live stream. If you spill your paint, soak it up with a brush, and then just chuck it back onto the miniature. Don't just wipe it all up because you're wasting valuable resources there. And I think it was on the tail, was I? No, done the tail. Cool. It's picking up some primer and brushes, but haven't picked any paints up yet. Again, I am biased because I basically use contrast paints all the time now because it depends on what result you want, right? Yes, if you go with traditional paints, number one, they are cheaper, I suppose. But number two, you're building a skill a lot more. You're building up your skill base a lot more than if you use contrast paints. However, if you want to literally get instant results quickly, contrast paints are absolutely brilliant. I absolutely love them. And if you haven't like spent hundreds of pounds on normal paints to start with, that can certainly be a bit of a block to get contrast paints and start doing that. I highly recommend contrast paints without a shadow of doubt. I've got a load of real-time painting videos, and you see how quick it is and the results you get. I mean, even with this one, you can see what the white has done already as it starts to dry. Now, if I put the next thing on, which is going to be the skin with Guilliman Flesh. Excuse me. Guilliman Flesh? Yeah, let's go Guilliman Flesh. So we go with Guilliman Flesh. Now, Journey's Middle Earth, browns. You're going to probably use browns and kind of like skin tones, greens, those kind of earthy colours. That's kind of Lord of the Rings style. So you probably want to be getting some of those. But there are some kind of essential paints I'd recommend for contrast paints. The Apothecary White that I just used is a really, really, really important one. To kind of get whites normally are really, really hard, and Apothecary White just makes it really, really easy. If you've got any yellows, Ayandan yellow, which is the yellow I use most of all, is absolutely brilliant. Again, gives very hard to do with traditional paints, but the contrast paint Ayandan yellow really just makes it so easy. What else we've got? And then browns, you've got Wildwood, which is a fantastic paint for any wood, which you probably will have. Guilliman Flesh, as I say, which is what I'm painting with now, is a great skin tone. And the beauty of contrast paints is they are a bit like they're one coat wonders. Once you've got your primer on, and it does depend on the primer you've got, I would argue, with the quality of the finish from contrast paints. I pretty much exclusively use Wraithbone from Citadel, which is the spray. And it just gives such, well, for me, I love the warm kind of vivid tones that it produces. But you can put contrast paints over any primer, to be fair. And, a lot of people use Xenophil priming, which is when you use a kind of grey over the miniature, and then you spray down from the top at a certain angle on the white to kind of like give highlights. And then from that, you can move on. Now, it's got bare feet. Yep. And what you'll see you know, I do absolutely love this, the contrast paints for this, is you just get instant finishes. So rather than with traditional paints, you're basically going to be priming just like this. Then you'll be putting base colors on for the blocks of color that you've got in the miniature. Then you'll be effectively doing a wash. Then you can do kind of layering or dry brushing to highlight. So that all, you don't see the final effects till a lot later, and that's the beauty of that's one of the beauties of contrast paints. Or as I say, there are different ones that are now. Scale 75, I think, was one. What else? And then instance, army painter instance, I think they're called. Is that a hand there? I think. A couple of hands there, I think. It's a little angel next to it. Okay, so there's the skin tones done. That was Gilliman flesh. And while we're kind of like doing multiple miniatures at the same time, you'll see here that because it's a wash, it takes quite a while to dry. So if I was doing this off camera to make it a little less boring, I would have just batch washed all of those towers and done it all at the same time, or else it just takes forever. Right, I think that's not quite dry enough. What we got? We got a kind of brown. Yeah, that harness is brown. Okay, fair enough. So I think what we'll do is go with the metal work now of one of these guys and show how we can, just using the reference art as well from before, and we're going to have a little go at this guy, which is the mounted Spectre. So it's going to have blue flames coming up, but I want to also get some of the metal on, so I can literally just cover that blue flames. Do I? No, let's go straight with the blue flames. So we need a little bit of a mix here because the Telesar blue, which is what I'm going to be using, which is a nice bright blue, I've got to thin this down, make it a lot less vivid. So I'm going to be using the contrast medium to thin this down. So just to reiterate and to remind is that when you want to thin these down, do not use water, because the water will stop the agents working and the actual contrast paint working as it should do. You use the contrast medium as a kind of water, as a thinning agent. So I've got my little pattern here off camera, just on the side. So we're going to put a couple of brushfuls, 3 brushfuls of blue, the Telesar blue. Clean the brush. And then we're going to go in with the contrast medium. And we probably want to put in about the same amount. So I'm just going to put this to the side. 1, 2, 3, and 1 for luck. 4. And that will thin that down. Okay. So let's give it a little test to see what we're looking like. Nice vivid blue, that's what I wanted. I'm actually going to do the whole base that as well, like if you like the this flame, blue flame, I suppose, like it's coming out from the ground as well. So that goes all the way up. And again, the contrast paints, what they're doing is they're just getting into that recess, giving you, hence the name, giving you a lot of contrast. Okay, cool. As we go in, that's his. I'm not too fussed about getting it onto the this weird night thing, because I'm going to be going over that with a metal lead belcher anyway for all the metal work. So just getting into all the nooks and crannies, trying not to get too much paint onto the miniature, because as I said, we want it to kind of be a little bit thinner a little less vivid. Going up as well. Yeah, I played, going back to Journeys of Middle-earth, I played a little bit of that on TTS when I was thinking of buying it. But the problem is I bought the vast majority of Imperial Assault. And I didn't want to go down that route again where it costs literally hundreds of pounds to get all of the expansions and all of the content. But it was a nice game. I really did enjoy it. But I just got too many games. So I never took the plunge. I had some pretty good willpower for that one particular game. But yeah, it's Lord of the Rings, which I really like as well. So yeah, possibly in the future. Okay, get on there. I'm not too fussed about getting the blue over the horse itself because it will give it a kind of like blue shine when I put the brown over it. So I'm just going kind of like over everything near the flame as well. Ooh, spreading war. So what is that to do with a particular part of the Middle Earth kind of universe? Is that to do with Rohan or Gondor or Mordor, or is that how they're doing the expansions? Because that's what I'd imagine it would be like, because that's what they did with the Star Wars. They did like a Hoth expansion. They did a Tatooine, Jabba's palace expansion. So you're doing different settings that follow the kind of characters and the themes. Spreading War expansion, yeah. Interesting. Have you played the whole? Just to ask, have you played the whole of the core box experience? Well, that's some weird horse, man. It's a skeletal horse. That's so cool. Okay. Now, what's flame? What's not? Okay, cool. Rohan and Gondor. Oh, that's quite cool. And I presume it brings in new player characters that you can kind of play with, allies and stuff. And then you've obviously got different and it's all app based, isn't it, in terms of the missions? So that can keep expanding, I suppose, which is that's a really nice idea. I like that. Makes replayability greater and greater, and the amount of content that you can have. So it always seemed to me, it looked like Mansions of Madness 2nd edition, where you can buy additional scenarios and stuff using the content from the expansions. Yeah, cool. It is a money sink now, I'm sure, just like many of them. Oh, I'll just get that expansion. I'm not too fussed about going too much over some of the night itself, missing some of these flame parts that aren't flame, because again, I'm going to be going over them anyway. Cool. Right. Yep. I know all too well. I mean, that's the thing. At least with these Kickstarters, you chuck the money all in at once, so it doesn't keep biting at you. But it sounds fantastic. Journeys to Middle Earth is definitely one game I keep putting my eye on and like, do I get it? Do I get it? But I've got so much to play. That's the thing. And I need to be a little bit selective. Right, I'm going back to our in judgment. I'm going to hit him with some red. So it's kind of like a burgundy red, but I'm going to go in with a really bright red to start with, and then we're going to darken it with some washes. In fact, with some washes probably. So Blood Angels red, I really love Blood Angels red, a very vibrant red. But again, I kind of like the miniatures vibrant. I paint most of my miniatures, and they've got pretty vibrant look about them. And you'll see what I mean as I put this paint on. Now you've got to be a little bit careful at this point. Try not to get over the white parts that I painted before, because red is a strong pigment paint and be very hard to get off your miniature. Concentrating now. There are worse problems to have, but I agree. I'm definitely more selective over what I choose to invest in these days. There's just too much. Oh, I know. I think, to be honest, I have a general rule that if I'm not playing it, it needs to go. Unless it's kind of like a bit more of a collector's thing. So, for example, Joan of Arc, even if I stop playing it for a while, I won't get rid of it because I know I'll come back to it. Also, it depends on what, how often you play those games. If you're playing them, then they're a good investment and they're worth it. If they're sitting on your shelf in shrink wrap, what's the point? So you might as well get rid of it because it's just taking up more space than what you need. But the problem is there's more and more games coming out that you just want to play. I've got my kind of evergreens, the games that I tend to get out quite a lot when I'm playing in board game groups and stuff. I mean, Blood Rage is a classic. Absolutely play that lots and lots. So that's never going. Super Fancy Brawl, another one, which is a complete regular one on the board game table. So that's never going. Solomon Kane for the solo play. I definitely play that. I played quite a few games solo. So Tainted Grail recently. As I say, Solomon Kane, definitely. Nemesis is another one, which is kind of like the group favorite. Black Rose Wars. So these are all played semi-regular. And then obviously like the Scythe, Terraforming Mars doesn't get played much actually compared to the other Stonemaier games. So Wingspan comes out more than that does. Scythe comes out at these, a relatively decent amount of time. And the beauty of Stonemaier games is they got their Autonoma system, which is a really good solo system. So I think if you play the games, then they are a good investment. If you don't play the games, I mean, I don't think they are. As simple as that, to be honest. I mean, you got to take into account the hobbying as well aspect. So if you do paint miniature models, then that's got value in it in itself. Yeah. I still play Black Rose Wars. That's like my game groups. I've got a game group of five of us, and we play that regularly. I literally just recently got the 5 and 6 player expansion, so it gives you all the stuff. It's just such a great game. I absolutely love that game. It's just so disappointing about the miniatures. I'm really, really annoyed about the miniatures. And so many of them, just the paint won't stick, and it's the most frustrating thing. Now a few people have mentioned that to try varnishing them and then painting over the varnish. So to be honest, I've yet to try that. So I think that's going to be my next attempt to try and get painting those. But the expansion stuff, all the new schools of magic, the new evocations, the new gameplay mechanics. I've played the campaign a little bit as well. Yeah, I'm really enjoying that as well. But I'm not playing it solo. I don't play Black. Oh, I've got it on his arm. I don't play Black Rose Wars solo anymore. So hence why I didn't finish off that video series. I've got too many other games that I solo. That are what I would call solo only games, like Solomon Kane and Tainted Grail. So yeah, definitely still playing the game, but not on video and not solo. Does that answer your question? Thank you, much appreciated. Oh, it's no worries. Do you have Black Rose Wars? Is that a game that you play? I just love the competitive aspect of that game. It's just literally a take that all the time, smashing your friends, mages all the time, pounding them with lots of destructive spells and traps. And there's so much variety in the spells and the things you can do. Yeah, I really love that game. That's going to be an evergreen, definitely. That's never going. And with the Nova Aetus Renaissance, the Hyperions, I could say Hyperions, which are going to bring about the new Black Rose Wars content, which is awesome. Okay, there's the red. You see how oh yeah, well, hopefully, depending where you are and what the rules are, hopefully you get back to playing with your game group and get it to the table. If you don't mind, you know that real competitive side, and the players in your group don't mind that, then it'll be a massive hit. It'll be a huge hit with them. Absolutely great game. Really do enjoy that game. Okay, so next let's move on to let's use this kind of like brown color coming over this here. I think I'm going to use Snakebite Leather onto this here. So Snakebite Leather, as the name suggests, is quite good for using on leather. It's a kind of yellow tinged brown, quite a light brown. I need to go in there white actually as well in between. Oops. Or just go over the whole thing in brown as well. Oops. And another thing about contrast paints, which is so nice, you don't have to thin them down with water. So normal paints, you do have to thin them down with water or use a wet palette as well to make sure that they flow. And this is already thinned down for you, so you don't have to worry about that. It's all done for you. That also does mean you get less paint in a pot overall, of course, compared to traditional paints. They won't last as long, but they still last a long time. You still paint a lot of miniatures with just one pot of paint. And this is a new Snakebite Leather at last. So I'm getting nice tones from this paint. I'm gonna paint inside. I've decided I'm just gonna paint inside them. Yeah, I'm thinking of possibly doing a top 10 list of games for me at some point. I just wanted to improve the production quality of my videos because at the moment I'm literally, for example, this is just using an iPhone and just direct streaming onto it. I don't really have the time. I mentioned this before. I don't really have the time to post-produce videos and all the rest of that stuff. That's not really why I've got the channel. It's just to give people an idea about painting, to be honest, and some games and playing them and so forth. But yeah, in a way, I'd quite like to improve the production quality of it, and then perhaps move on to some different things from then. Let's keep with the snakebite leather onto here. This will be metal. But it's so good. The phones are so good now that you can literally just live stream straight from your phone, and it gives you like really good quality. Right, these wings need to be white as well, and so does this kind of halo. So we've got to go back in with that white anyway. I want to kind of get a yellow tinge to the mane of the horse and its tail. So away from snakebite leather. And let's move on to something a bit different. So I'm going to go in with the white. Let's get those few bits just done while I remember. And this is quite handy because I can just use this to hold. When you said you had Black Rose Wars, Mark, did you mean you've got like the Kickstarter version? So you've got all the this Sator box, is it? So all this Kickstarter stretch goals. Because that was an stupid amount of extra content. I couldn't believe the extra content I got from that. Really quite surprised by that. I'm just going to put the white on here as well. Sure did. Awesome. Yeah, so good. Not good for the space to try and fit it somewhere in the house, but yeah. And it's all really great yeah, it's a stupid amount, but it's really good gameplay content. And so rather than just aesthetic and kind of like improvements on the aesthetic and what it looks like, it's actually pretty much all actual gameplay extra content, which is so good. So good. Yeah, Black Rose Wars was one of my first Kickstarters as well. Yeah, I really do enjoy it. I think it's such a great game. I think I'm going to go in with some browns here. Some wildwood. For some slight different tones. Yeah. And, yeah, sounds good. And over there as well. Okay, so let's get wildwood and do that now. So this is a really nice wood tone. It's a kind of more of a red, darker brown. And you'll see the difference as I paint it. So let's start by trying to dodge the mane of the horse. Now the problem with contrast paints is if you go over a part, you got to paint the whole part back again, if that makes sense. So, like, is that main? Yeah. No, I think that's. I'm also going to just cut in here. Let's do that. And cut in here. There we go. Okay, let's bring that back down from here and bring that down. and also in there as well. Yeah, and just to answer, well, not to answer, but just to point out about starting painting is don't worry too much. I mean, if you're not painted much at all before, I'd recommend starting with your kind of like orcs for yourself, Mark. Start with like the grunts first, just so you get an idea about how the paints work and kind of like what they move like, and then you can go on to the characters to kind of try the next stage, as it were, and just spend a little bit more time on the characters because you're going to be playing them more. You probably want to... Oh dear, that's terrible. And don't worry too much about the end result. Is, you know, you're not looking for a professional finish to start with. You don't need to. Any paint job will look good on the table compared to if it's just grey plastic. Yeah, cheers, Mark. Hope to see you again soon. When you've actually got paints. Okay, so now we're going with this wildwood to get a slightly different brown tone. It's not the easiest miniature to get underneath and so forth, but we'll give it a go. Whoa. Okay, and then we're doing it all brown. Yeah, let's do it all brown. I'm quite happy with that. I might just go over again parts of this saddle so you got different tones with snakebite leather or something like that, or maybe what do you call it, skeleton horde, just to give a slightly different tone to different parts of the saddle. Could even use a wash. You can use like Nuln oil or Agros, not Agros, what's it called? Forgotten. The Earthshade? Something Earthshade? I can't remember what it's called. Ooh. What fantastic miniatures, though. This is such a nice miniature. Absolute joy to paint. So if you do go over, I've just made a little mistake there. I've just gone over the horse itself. I don't want that. So a bit of water. And effectively brush that paint off like so. And then I need to go back over it again to get the bit I actually want it on. Okay. Pretty happy with that. Okay. So, from Wildwood, I think we'll move on to, I'm going to use a little bit of snakebite leather, not snakebite, I keep calling it that, skeleton horde now, and I'm going to thin that down again with a contrast medium to just start to touch the hair of the miniature now. So a little bit of, we're still waiting for the tower to dry. And then we need a contrast medium. We really want to thin this down. So again, about the same amount of contrast medium as paint. And then we're going to go over this bit. So we want a really nice light browny yellow color as denoted in the art. Oh man, I've got so much to paint for Joan of Arc. It's a little bit overwhelming, but it's also really exciting in another way as well. Man, does it make the game pop on the table. Because it's so epic as a game anyway. And there's just some awesome painting that's been going on around the community in the last kind of like 2 years, 3 years, while we've had Joan of Arc. Some amazing painting as well. But obviously we know it's Time of Legends is no more. There's going to be no more additional stuff produced for it, for that particular specific game content. But there has been teasers on the live streams about a potential like game that uses the scale or whatever it might be. So that'll be interesting to see what that's on about. Oh, I need the wildwood for those as well. Okay, let's do that now while I remember. So we'll go back with that wildwood. Actually, I need that for the tower as well. I can start doing the tower with the wildwood as well. So we're going to do the horse's bridle, I want to call it. I hope that's right. Okay, cool. Okay, that's all straps done. Okay, next thing. Should we get the hair done next, I think? I think the angel has similar hair to the horse. So I'm just going to, as I've got this still paint here, I'm going to get the hair of the angel with this kind of yellowy tone. Off yellow, I guess you can call it. Cool. Right, okay. Starting to come together. Right, he has mousy brown hair. Kind of slightly grey, actually. Okay. I think Agaros Dunes. I've got a brand new Agaros Dunes, so I can get rid of the old one. Maybe. So I've got Agaros Dunes. So I'm going to try something a bit different here. course it doesn't. None of these pots do. These paint pots, I tell you what. Right, so what we're going to do is we're going to get this on the bottom and then paint up from the bottom. Like so, and make sure we get the back, of course. And we kind of want to, we're going to do it a little bit on here as well. Because what we're going to do is we're going to use the Apothecary White again to kind of do a slight, I guess, wet blend between the brown and to give the, I'm just going straight off the art here. In this case, what we're going to do is we're going to bring up this brown using the white. There we go. And then just get rid of that. Then we'll do the same for the beard. So it should have a tone. I've missed the whole of this, so we can just go with this. Get a bit more up there as well. Okay, pretty happy with that. Okay, I'm going to get a bit of Black Templar now, because I just want the horse's head to come out a little bit better. So, a bit of Black Templar, another essential part of your contrast paint range, I would recommend. And we're going to go with the eye here. And nostril. Just the eye itself, not the whole area around it. There we go. Also go in here with the ears. There we go. And then I think what we'll do is we use a basilicanum grey for the hooves themselves. We need to smarten up him before we can do the metal, before we want to do the metal. Yeah, that's really starting to annoy me. So I'm going to grab some Wraithbone base. Excuse me. Quickly grab some of this Wraithbone. Bit of water. And that bit's terrible. I'm just going to do the whole area, and I can just go over that with... Well, in fact, I might just highlight some parts of this, actually, because this part of his cloak is quite prominently white, and also I can get rid of some of those. Oh, I've missed a whole red sash part. It's not good. So just doing a little bit of layering on some of this. Give it a little bit more vibrancy, especially against the horse. So I want this to come out a little bit more. There you go. So now we've fixed that a little bit. More happy there. We do need to get that red on there though. So let's go and do that now. so I don't forget. So back with Blood Angels Red. And the sash just over here. There we go. Okay, so that's Blood Angels Red done. And we want to kind of like a slightly off-white. So again, we'll do a little mix in here. Gonna use some Apothecary White. And we're gonna get that Skeleton Horde back. Put a small amount of Skeleton Horde, tiny amount really of Skeleton Horde compared to the white. And this is gonna be the cloak. Of the little angel thing, cherub or what you want to call it. And that's the thing with contrast as well, they are still paints, so you can still mix them and create the colours you want, really. Now this massive cloud it's on, I'm probably just going to go with, again, Apothecary White. I might just do that, I don't know. Basilicum Grey anyway, let's get the hooves done. Try not to get on the cloud. No, I don't have a large miniature holder for painting. I've only got the standard, so these miniatures won't fit on there, unfortunately. But I do like to use the holder normally. And obviously the little miniatures are too small, so I just hold them, which is fine. But I do recommend those miniature holders when you're painting. You can just manipulate them so much easier. And it does make your life a lot easier when you're painting. Cool. Pretty happy with that. I'm just going to go in there. Cool. Right, okay. While I've got... No. So, I'm going to go back to that Nuln oil, which I put somewhere here. I'm going to put Judgment away for a second, because the last thing I did on these was did the metal, but I haven't dulled them down. So a little bit of Nuln oil over the metal. We'll finish these. In fact, I'm just gonna put the Nuln oil over the whole hatch there, so it doesn't look stupid. So that's that one. And then we'll just go back to this one. Do the same on this. Sorry, just realised it's off camera. Using this liberally. Again, just do over the whole hatch. Okay, and then we got a little door handle there, little door handle over there, and we got the portcullis. And not worrying about using too much of this at all. Lovely. Right, that's those done. Right, how is the tower doing? Let's go back to the tower. We are now. Well, let's just look at the time. Been going for over an hour. Okay. Can't believe we're going for over an hour. Now that's pretty much dried. What we're going to do with this is just add a little bit more wash to some of them, to Nuln Oil to some of them. We go down to here and do some Nuln Oil around the door. But we're going to start by getting some wood texture onto this now. So back to wildwood. So again, this is not being primed with Wraithbone, and the contrast paints go fine over it. So as I say, you don't have to use Wraithbone. I just really like the tone that it gives for certainly for characters and units. And we've got a decent amount in here. As we go through. I'll probably paint for another 5 or 10 minutes. I'll have to stop the live stream. It's good to speak to Mark for the first time. And hopefully, Mark, you start painting some miniatures soon. Don't go crazy on paints; it can cost a fortune. You got to be a little bit careful. You got to pace yourself. Okay, how are we looking? It's getting there. Make sure I got everything. Nice. Then over here, these are quite nice to hold, to be honest. These towers to do all the paintwork on them. Okay, getting there, getting there, getting there, getting there. Oops. Well, it's terrible. So yeah, again, with the units, with these spectres, I would have done that blue for all of them. Then as like a batch, maybe a batch of 5, which would be, you know, not too much that it's getting boring, but enough to get through them, as it were. Now, where primer hasn't got, you're seeing it happening here, you might get the paint kind of like not sticking. Which is fine, You can keep going over. So it won't stick to this, for example. But I'm still going to put paint onto it and hope that most of it sticks, that enables... But you can go back over it again, so once the first layer's dry, you can go to a second layer. It will eventually cover unprimed areas. It's just nowhere near as good as just normal paints. So you might just have to do it a few times. I mean, it's already started to stick after going through it over it just a couple of times on here. Okay. So nearly done the wood of the tower. Got some brickwork to do as well. And the roof. Okay, there we go. And I think I just touched that with my hand. Again, don't worry too much about like different shades, it'll be fine. So we'll leave that to dry. Oh, sorry, I just realised. Hi, when are you going to paint SFB round 2? I can't. As is Chaos. As is Chaos. Your videos were very helpful. I paint mostly with contrast paint. Yeah, exactly. Yep, I'm going to be getting some videos of the Super Fantasy Brawl characters very, very soon. I've painted Sir Tentaclot already. I did it off camera. I couldn't wait, to be honest, to get painting. But I will be certainly painting the rest on live stream. So yeah, keep tuned, keep in tune, tuned in, and I will be posting some videos. And probably, to be completely honest, I'll rather just do the live stream because I'm going to be recording it anyway. And it means that I don't have to put it on my phone. It literally just goes straight up to YouTube. And then anyone who wants to jump in the chat can do as I do those. So, yep, definitely some Super Fantasy Brawl round 2. I think I'm going to plan to paint the other 8 characters on video so you can watch that in live stream. But yeah, I just love it. So I presume you're a Super Fantasy Brawl painter, player with the contrast paints? Or is it not Super Fantasy Brawl, it's something different? Right, bring this back while we're chatting. I'm going to go to a bigger brush so I can actually get this massive cloud done. So Apothecary White with this fantastic lid. And just go in all over this sucker. Now, it might... No, not it might. I'm going to dry brush this with pure white afterwards to show more of a cloud effect. But I really... Oh, okay, he's playing on Board Game Arena. Yeah, I was playing on Board Game Arena for a while, and then I got a little bit bored of it. You know, it's not the same as having your miniatures and playing with them. But I'm very lucky in the UK, in a sense that restrictions have lifted completely, and we're able to meet up and play and stuff. So I'm still managing to play Super Fantasy Brawl a decent amount. So very lucky in that case, in that sense. And I know that. But yeah, such a good. I just love the game. I really do. I said it as soon as I had it, how much I enjoyed it, because I was like demoing it at convention and stuff. So obviously I had a bit of a affinity to the game before it came out on Kickstarter. But yeah, just such a good game. And the miniatures are absolutely gorgeous. Oh, nice. You never know. Well, it might come out in organised play at some point. And then you can maybe go to your local game store and play a bit of a tournament. I mean, that's what I want to happen. Hope, you got our fingers crossed. We'll just have to wait and see. I mean, it's not in retail yet, so that's not going to happen anytime soon. But fingers crossed at some point. Don't suppose you played in any of the online leagues that I ran. It's a while back now since I did those, to be honest. But they were good. They were really good fun. Great community. The Super Fantasy Brawl community, really fantastic. Yeah, 20th ranking overall. That's really good, because there's a lot of players on Board Game Arena. So that's no small feat at all. And may I ask, who's your favorite combo 3 characters? If you didn't have someone banning them, who would you absolutely love to have as your 3 characters? You can tell the kind of play style of a player by the characters they choose, to a point. I mean, grab Corvash to be a ultra competitive, of course. Ridiculous. Corvash. Okay, we get into the end of that cloud now, so that's the end of the cloud. And we will 100%. I'm not going to be able to do it tonight on the live stream, but I will be highlighting that with a brush. I don't have anyone to play with in real life, but at least I paint. Yeah. Oh, nice. You painted them all. Fantastic. Yeah, you might be worth when things get back a little bit more back to normal. Just checking out your if there's a local game group that meet up near you, because to be honest, Super Fantasy Brawl is such a good game that it's likely that you'll find people in that group to play with. But you got to take those first steps to just see what's about, and then hopefully find something. It depends where you are. I mean, the UK is the board game scene is really good. It's quite prevalent all across the UK. So you can normally only have to drive maybe like 20 minutes, and then you've got a board game group that meet pretty much weekly everywhere, which is really nice. So depending where you are, Corvash, Nevermore, and Darren, yeah, I can see that 3 being extremely dangerous. Reactions, damage, boosting your allies, manipulation of characters. Yeah, that would be extremely strong. Unfortunately, Corvash would be banned pretty much automatically. Right, let's get some metal work, and then I'm going to call it a stream. So using lead belcher now, as always, with my metalwork, which is just a normal base color. So we're going to have to certainly add some water in there to thin it down. The thing is, my favourite character, he's definitely not the strongest, but I just really enjoy him, is Arquette. I absolutely love Arquette. Now, because Jin Shen is now, which is the female cat, is now in the game, she's also one of my favourite characters. I absolutely love Jin Shen. A bit powerful when she's leveled up. It's a bit insane what she can do, but real fun. Oh, Citadel. I hate Citadel. Only because he's just too strong at the moment. But yeah, Citadel, chuck him in as well, and then yeah, of course. And who else? Citadel and Taze. Yeah, Taze, another great character, so strong and so durable. Yeah, they're all great choices. Not Shuzhou though. But if you were 20th, you certainly know how to play the game. Yeah, no, the bloody rule has really not helped people like, I mean, Lorelei, for example. Hang on a minute, have I got that right? What do you mean for Shuzhou? It's made kind of like Shuzhou's, what's it called? Jade, something Jade, when he bloodies characters adjacent. That's nowhere near as strong as it was. And if you, but then Shuzhou against Lorelei, for example, or Xin Shen, knocks them down to 1 health with that move, which is just crazy. So yeah, it does depend on which character when. It is situational. Right, just gonna get a little bit of metal onto here. I think that's all the metal. What have I got? I've got a green glow. A greeny yellow glow. No. I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to thin down some gold a minute. I'm actually going to use this. Auric Armor Gold now. It's a layer paint, not a base paint. Metallic colour. Yeah, the rules have changed the game. Again, I've been quite vocal on Discord when it changed. The fact that they changed the challenge track and how that came out at the start, I'm still not a fan. I think it's made it into a real brawler rather than a tactical, rather than the tactical side of the game, because you're really not going to score much on those objectives until late turn 2, 3, 4, really. However, the bloodied rule does make a lot more sense to me. I actually quite like the bloody rule. I think it makes sense. It's a lot easier to understand. But it does change some characters and how they work, of course. So I've just watered down some gold here, gold layer, just to get the effect that's trying to show. I might just put it a little bit like this as well. Cool. So we get a little bit of sparkle. Oh yeah, no, the French. Oh, you what nationality? If you don't mind me asking, are you? The French. Yeah, the French players are. Well, they certainly were. I haven't looked, to be honest, at the rankings or anything like that. But they were certainly the best players online, by a long way. Even on the online league, the finalists were always the French players. Extremely good. Yeah, no, you're not the only one. A lot of people like the one objective at the start. I just feel like having the two objectives meant that you had to think tactically from turn one, well, from turn zero, really, which meant more options to think about rather than, you know what, turn one, I'm going in there. and just doing as much damage as I can, which really lent heavily for those high damage output characters over the more tactical side. That's just my personal. Again, a lot of people do like the new rules, so that's definitely understandable. Cool. Okay, are we going to be able to get this metallic done before I can finish the stream? Yeah, let's get the metallic done. Because he's not far off done. Looking all right. Look at the horse. I mean, that apothecary white, just bang, done. And it just looks so good. White and the red as well. I love that contrast. Cool. Okay, let's give it a go. So getting a bit of Iyandan yellow now to do the gold. A QA. Okay, cool. So yeah, no, it is. The top players tend to be. What have I done? Yeah, tend to be French, definitely. You had some fantastic players in the French, and they've got their own league and stuff, so they play it a lot. So it's understandable why. If you were the second player and have bad hand, spaceman card. Yeah, very true. Again, yeah, very true. But then but for me, that's why kind of like planning and that kind of aspect of it, I really liked, and I thought, you know, it took that away a little bit. Yeah, again, real personal opinion, and you know, there's lots of people like yourself who really like that new rule. Awesome. Let's give it a golden top as well. So the Iyandan yellow over lead belcher makes it. What I really like is the gold color it gives. Very simple, but real nice. Okay. And then we've got to do the silver. So going in with, in this case, Basilicanum Grey. And don't get me wrong, since they brought out the new rule, I only play with the new rules. So I do only play with that one challenge track on. And I still absolutely love the game. Again, you know, it hasn't ruined the game for me, and I don't play anymore. It's absolutely fine. Part of me just feels that, yeah, that tactical side, you know, when I'm playing against players who have played it a bit before, a bit more experienced players, I just feel, you know, that I like that side of it if we got a bit of turn zero thinking. But yeah, of course, it's a card game. It is about drawing, and if your initial hand is, you can't do anything about it, there is literally nothing you can do about that. What I would have liked to see is it was literally just one, because it's the combo. I mean, one of the main reasons was the combo, because it wasn't just 2 points. Potentially, you could hit 3 points, 3 victory points turn 2, which is crazy when you thought about it. And that's when you had like 2 champions adjacent to a certain statue and controlling that zone as well. And if you could get effectively all three of your characters, which you could do, into that one zone adjacent to the statue, that makes it pretty much nigh on impossible for your opponent to stop you scoring those 3 VPs, which was very much hard to do. So I would have liked to see the removal of the which one was it again? Of the I can't remember. The 2 adjacent to the same statue or something like that. I think that's the one that was very hard to stop. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I think Tentaclot can basically one-shot anyone in the game, and that's the problem with him at the moment. I'm sure he get nerfed later down the road, especially in the competitive play. But yeah, at current present, it's just ridiculous. All 8 tentacles with displacement effect, double, and a decent amount of damage and movement and everything else, and range. I mean, it's just crazy. So it's just a bit too strong. Okay, right. That is Judgment nearly finished. Obviously, we've got to do the base. I want to do the face. I want to get the detail in the face a little bit more. A little bit of, you know what? I'm going to leave the red the way it is. I love that vibrant red. It works really well in contrast with the white. And I need to dry brush the cloud as well. So we thought about the blue flames. We did our tower partly as well. And most importantly, we focused on Judgment, which is looking really nice. So I think the point will be to try and get some more video footage of painting, certainly. Definitely thinking Super Fancy Brawl. More Joan of Arc, of course, as well. I get 3 points using Corvash. First I put blue card, Nevermore, that teleport. Oh, that's insane. Yeah, teleport, and then Corvash managed to get in position to do all 4 champions. Yeah, I mean, that's an absolute classic combo, is the Corvash, Nevermore, chop, yeah? It's just craziness. Cool. Okay, well, thanks for joining the chat, as is Chaos and Mark earlier. And then, yeah, until next time, when I do the next live stream or video, whatever it might be, keep painting, keep enjoying the games, and keep playing as best you can, whether it's online or in real life, I guess. Okay, until next time, keep painting and keep enjoying it. Bye for now. If I can work out how to stop.